marked by soaring inflation, currency depreciation and mounting debt. The federal budget for the fiscal year 2024-25, which is supposed to be a response to these challenges, is likely to be anything but. Terror state Pakistan is all set to raise its defence budget amidst tensions with India. Media reports say the government is likely to present a 17.6 trillion rupee budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, down 6.7% from last fiscal year, but will increase its defence budget by around 20%, likely offset by cuts in development spending. Yet this country keeps getting aid and loans and more for quote-unquote development projects from around the globe, from financial institutions to other countries that keep supporting this terror state. Its debt is spiraling out of control, its per capita GDP is declining and poverty is rising, but the terror funding does not stop. With its latest increase in defence spending, its budget could become as much as 15% of the total national budget. This also comes at a time when Pakistan leaders have admitted to terror backing. They claim it's a historical backing, not really present now, but that's hardly the truth. From ministers to senators, Pakistan politicians have time and again had to agree to their backing of terror. The latest one to do so is Pakistan Senator Sherry Rehman. Despite all of these admissions, why does the world continue to fund the rogue state is the big question that we ask. As of April 2024, Pakistan has had highest living cost in Asia with a 25% inflation rate. These are the conditions that prevail in this country, but their focus is single-mindedly its jihad against India. Its economy may grow at the fourth lowest pace of 1.9% only in the region, according to Asian Development Bank. In January 2025, the IMF lowered Pakistan's growth estimate to 3% for current fiscal year and further slashed it to 2.6% just recently. Pakistan's per capita debt has increased by 36% from $823 in 2011 to $1,122 in 2023. During the same time frame, Pakistan's GDP per capita has seen a 6% decline from $1,295 in 21 to $1,223 in 2023. The big question is, why do world bodies keep funding Pakistan despite a poor economical track record and its fetish for being a terror sponsor? The Asian Development Bank, for example, approved the 1.18 billion aid package for Pakistan just in the month of June. This funding is aimed at supporting Pakistan's economic reform program and improving infrastructure. But the question is, does it really? Similarly, the World Bank provided $720 million in aid to Pakistan in April 2025 after the Pahalgam attack for, again, quote, economic reforms and development projects. Pakistan's biggest benefactors, who are these? Let's take a look. One of them, of course, is United States of America itself, that preaches the entire global world about democracy and whatnot. US is one of the largest donors, providing significant military and economic aid to Pakistan. China, a major financial supporter, especially through loans and investments in infrastructure projects. Saudi Arabia provides substantial financial aid to Pakistan, including grants and loans. And then, of course, our world bodies like the ones I mentioned, Asian Development Bank, it has been a consistent source of financial aid for quote-unquote development projects. World Bank, significant contributor, supports in various development initiatives once again. But if the country is shedding its developmental budget to increase its defense budget, shouldn't these providers ask some questions? Take a look at the top spenders in the defense sector in terms of percentage of GDP. War-embroiled countries like Ukraine, Israel, Russia feature amongst the top 5 currently. That's not a matter of surprise, along with countries like Saudi Arabia and Algeria. Where do Pakistan and India stand? Pakistan already spends 2.7% of its GDP on defense, which is surely set to rise now. This is already higher than what India spends, roughly 2.3%, which shall also rise. But what India's economic condition overall is versus that of Pakistan's is hardly a matter of comparison. Plus, add to that its track record. Pakistan has clearly prioritized terror as far as its main aim and goal in the world is concerned. So the big question that we're asking today is simply this: why does the world continue to fund this terror country?
In 2022, Sajid Mir, the guy who plotted the Mumbai attacks, was suddenly presented after being told that he was... But that is the relationship between the ISI and terror organizations.
I take all your points. I mean, you're citing a long history of engaging with terrorism one way or the other. Okay, either fighting it. But we have grown up now fighting not conventional wars anymore. This is the first one I've encountered after a long time. I grew up between the two.
As Pakistan has completely cleaned its record, the tens of thousands of terrorists that existed in the
Pakistan
country,
is fighting very hard to do that.
Brigade 313 is Al-Qaeda in Pakistan. It's an umbrella organization for members of several groups like the Taliban, Lashkar-e-Jangvi, Hakat al-Jihad al-Islami,
Miss Hakim, I don't know who told you this, but this is, I can produce any number of pages saying all this. Perhaps we should also produce a fact sheet and more than a fact sheet, a digital dossier.
I asked the question, Senator Rehman, because this is you being accountable for what is happening inside Pakistan. In a statement issued on the 7th of May following the Indian airstrikes, Jaish-e-Mohammed said that at least 10 members of their family, its chief Masood Azhar, was killed in the strikes in Bahawalpur.
Your point being?
My point being is that these are the leaders of a massive terrorist organization that focuses on attacks in Kashmir. They've said 10 members of their family were killed there.
Leaders.
But I want to know what Brigade 313 is and why analysts, international analysts are saying that's Al-Qaeda in Pakistan.
Most of the international analysts you're quoting are strongly aligned with India's narrative. They tell only India's story.
Well, Pakistan leaders with barely any answers when it comes to terror factories on its soil. And on that front, there is literally no excuse that Pakistan can provide. But world bodies and other countries, even some friends of India, continue to look the other way. Why is that the case? Let's go across to our guest joining us, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, former DG Infantry of the Indian Army, Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Tara Karta, former director, NSCS, and political editor, CNN News 18. Aman Sharma is also joining me on the show. I want to begin with Lieutenant General first. What is going on with the world? Are they blind? They cannot see what Pakistan is doing? Or do you think this is just one of those tactics that they use to use Pakistan or continue to use Pakistan as a counterbalance? I mean, this country is barely spending anything on its development. The only thing that it is focused on is jihad versus India, and the world is not even blinking, batting an eyelid.
It's rather a shameful situation in the entire world. Nobody seems to realize that India is today fighting not terrorism just against India, but it's fighting terrorism on behalf of the entire world community. Every center in the world, whether it's in the United States, UK or anywhere else, are subject to terrorism across the globe. Why don't people understand that we are fighting the war of the other people as well, not only ours? Please understand that so long as the government in Pakistan is run by the military, and every single day the powers of military are only increasing. It was demonstrated soon after Sindoor, when they got a thorough bashing in the military operations, and they decided to promote their chief of the army staff to the rank of a field marshal, gave him a promotion. Yeah. This is a great job done by Pakistan. It saved the seat of the Pakistan Prime Minister. He stays where he is, and he stays with the seat of the chief of the army staff, who's now become the field marshal. So it's you scratch my back and I scratch yours. The problem is that people don't see how India can be prevented from growing amongst the first three economies in the world. The speed at which India's economy is growing today is not appreciated by a large number of competitors, and therefore they want to put a retardation to it. They were expecting that if such a situation arises as it arose in Sindoor, the war will go on for a number of days, much longer, whereby it will affect the economy of India. But India has no way thinking about any other thing except improving its economy. Therefore, we restricted the war to just 2.5 days.
Yes.
So, and the minimum damage caused to what was necessary strategically on Pakistan and what strategically has been accepted in India. Therefore, our policy is very clear. Please understand, Shibani, that the Prime Minister of India has for the last 2.5, 3 years been consistently saying, this is not an era of war. and we will resolve all issues on different manners. And we are trying to do that. We are trying to do something with the Indus Water Treaty, but that didn't work enough. So this kinetic action had to be taken. But please remember that there are many inimical forces across the globe which do not see India growing at the pace at which it's growing, and therefore they want to retard. Also, as you rightly said in your commentary.
No, it's so horrible what the world bodies are doing.
And you also said it in your own commentary.
Yeah.
You also said it in your own commentary that it's a counterbalance that is also being created. Therefore, one has to accept that the Pakistanis will not ever be able to fight a conventional war, will continue to go for a terrorist kind of an operation, and that's never going to end so easily.
No, my point being that, what authority or credibility do these bodies have left? We've had, and Aman will talk more about this, Rajnath Singh has just now, a few hours ago, called out the role of the UNSC, for example. They are making Pakistan the co-chair of a sanctions committee that was meant to sanction terrorists, knowing fully well, Aman, that terrorists have the greatest safe haven in Pakistan.
Well, absolutely. I think Rajnath Singh's comments are very significant. This is the first official, I would say, a government response to the move at the UN to make Pakistan the the co-chair of this terrorism panel. Rajnath Singh very clearly saying that, remember, this panel was set up in the aftermath of the 9/11 attack, and the world knows where the mastermind of the 9/11 attack was sheltered all these years, Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad in Pakistan. Him saying that Pakistan being made the vice chair is like telling the cat to guard the milk. He has completely slammed the UN, also said that this is a global mockery of the process of countering terrorism, because Pakistan is a state which is allowing people like Hafiz Saeed, Maulana Masood Azhar to roam freely on its roads. How can that state be expected to take any action against terror? It has not taken action on terror on its own soil. How will it tackle terror globally? So I think Rajnath Singh making it very clear and showing a mirror, I think, both to the IMF by questioning that the aid that you're giving them will clearly be misused for either pumping up your defense budget or aiding it for diverting it for terrorism, and the UNSC as well saying that there are serious need of reforms and the thinking at the UNSC, because making Pakistan the vice chair of such an important counter-terrorism panel shows that maybe the UN has also run out of ideas.
It's not just about whether they've run out of ideas, Tarakarta. One is the question of what value are these bodies serving. But the other is that this is absolute naked support for Pakistan. I mean, who in their right mind could think of Pakistan as, heading or co-heading a sanctions committee on terrorism? This is coming after the Pahalgam attack. This is coming after India's military operation Sindoor. This is almost like the world saying that we are going to support Pakistan, almost clamoring to support Pakistan. No credibility left.
Shivani, at some level, I want to collapse laughing, because I can't imagine how can you make such a country at the head of one of the, like the gentleman said, a core committee on counterterrorism. Also, the UN was created for what? It was supposed to be created to bring peace and security to countries, right? But having said that, what we're talking about is UN reform. Because this election to the body is almost an automatic process. There's the whole OIC, that cabal which votes for Pakistan. There's an Asia Pacific group which votes for Pakistan. And it kind of rotates. What we should be talking about in the UN as well as the IMF is that countries with no record of democracy, with a record of supporting terrorism, should not be in the UN in the first place.
Yes.
I mean, forget about being voted in or voted out. What are you doing in the UN? So reform, I mean, I am sort of wondering even if it's even possible to reform or just abandon the UN and think of another body, because this is the worst it can get. I can't think how it can get any worse than having a country where the UN itself has addresses on its books of terrorist hideouts in Pakistan which have been designated, and then you make them head of the counterterrorism committee. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah. No, so much for the American democracy project, isn't it, Ashok Sajjanhar? I mean, America wants democracy all over the world, but its greatest benefactory, it is the greatest benefactor of a country like Pakistan, and they're unwilling to shed their old ways. In the past, they may have, justified it as fights against the Soviets, but what justifies this now? Pakistan hasn't been a democracy, hasn't been a true democracy since partition.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shivani, and I sort of agree with all the statements that have been made by the other panelists. But I think as far as the world is concerned and as far as the UN is concerned, I think we really have to differentiate between what should be and what is. And I think we have to deal with it. Basically, you know, in terms of ideals, what Tara says, what the general says, what everyone says, you know, Pakistan should not be there. It should not be a member of the UN Security Council or non-permanent member of the UN Security Council.
Yes.
But you know, that is what it is. It is happening there, and different countries are acting on the basis of their interests. You know, there are two permanent members of the UN Security Council, China. And as far as China and Pakistan, their relationship is, you know, higher than the mountains and deeper than the ocean. So, and we have seen in Sindoor what China is willing to do as far as Pakistan is concerned. Then there is the United States. You would recall that when Prime Minister Modi was in Washington on 13th February, there are all these sheaves of joint declaration which says, you know, proscribe Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, 26/11 attacks, Tahavur Rana was handed over to India, etc., etc. But then personal interests come in. You know, personal interests, we've heard, of course, there is no conclusive evidence. Mr. Gentry Beach has gone there. Mr. Trump's son has got a very lucrative crypto deal there. You also see, you know, even in terms of the geopolitical interest, you know, if United States is interested in selling its armor, its equipment, it is now seen that Pakistan buys today 82% of its defense or offense requirements. I'll not call it defense requirements, offense requirements from China. It wants to, you know, its military industrial complex also wants to have something, you know, some share of that pie. There are so many interests, and geopolitically, of course, you know, America would say, we want to keep Pakistan, not allow it to go completely into the Chinese camp. But they have been trying to do that. They have not succeeded. But then, you know, they will continue to do this. So there are...
No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you mentioned that. Not only has the US not succeeded in breaking the closeness between Pakistan and China, which is growing on a daily basis, they've also not been able to control the amount of terror that gets funding and support in Pakistan. These are the twin problems, and you know, US cannot just shirk its responsibility, even though it tries to act as the big brother. I'm sorry to make a correlation. You know, Trump cannot say, oh, he was the one who, you know, arranged this ceasefire and he talked to both leaders and this and that. But what are you doing about the terror in Pakistan? Why should you not face that question? If you are so significant, if you are so good at convincing others about what you want, you're instead doing
absolutely.
deals.
You're very right. You're very right, Shivani. I think if he's so good at, you know, getting ceasefires, the first ceasefire he should get is in Los Angeles. What is happening there for the last 3 days, I think the conflict there has gone on for more number of hours than it did between India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan, it was 87 hours. There it has gone on for more than 100 hours. You know what Sherry Rehman told Yalda Hakim, that, you know, that is a matter of the past as far as terrorists are concerned. We are trying to do what we can right now. What should we do now? Hand over Hafiz Saeed to India. Hand over Masood Azhar to India. That's what we've been asking.
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying, you know, that when Pakistan wants to talk to us, that we are going to talk terror about how to stop terror. And the first way to stop terror in Pakistan, if Pakistan is serious about it, is give us all those terrorists. There are, you know, whether it is 26/11 or the other terrorist actions.
Well, they didn't even give Osama to the US, so I have literally no hopes as far as Pakistan helping India is concerned. But Lieutenant General Prasad, this is a tricky situation for India. If anything that has been clearer to us post Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor is that we do not have friends when it comes to our battle, our fight against Pakistan. We have to do it alone. No, Mr. Sajjan Ha doesn't agree.
No, not at all. Clear. I think, you see, just one point before I, you know, yield the floor to Lieutenant General Prasad. You see, if India had no friends, India would not be invited to the G7. We don't have the best of relations at this moment with Canada. But all the other 6 members of G7, they insisted on Canada that India should be invited.
Okay, let me rephrase what I said. Economically, India's might is being recognized, and obviously that is also something that the world is begrudgingly recognizing. That much is clear. But Lieutenant General Prasad, what I mean is that as far as ending terror from Pakistan towards India is concerned, nobody really cares, or they actually very tactfully use it to keep India under check. So how should India proceed when it comes to this global scenario?
Yes, absolutely correct. You see, I have been reading a lot of social media, so have all of us, and a lot of reports come which I am sure nobody can authenticate as 100% correct. But what we believe, that some of the nuclear arsenals that Pakistan possesses have base of US. There are a certain amount of US interest in the nuclear capabilities of Pakistan. How far it's true, I'm not very certain, but that's what a lot of reports are indicating, that what happened at the nuclear plant in Kayara Hills has something to do with the American support or American involvement there. Therefore, the Americans, if they have any nuclear interest in Pakistan, they would not like to lose that interest ever. Against whom that is established there, I am not able to make any comments on that. The second point is the Chinese interest is immense in Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan has become like a state of one of the states in China. Therefore, both these superpowers, who are the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, have deep interest in Pakistan. And they want to retain the facade of democracy by keeping the Prime Minister active there and have elections now and then and rig the elections. But the real government is always run by the military. And please understand, Hafiz Saeed and Jaish-e Mohammed and Masood are not the only ones who are terrorists there. I would put a large number of military officers, perhaps, please, I'm very guarded about it, perhaps even the Chief of the Army Staff, who comes from a background, of a jihadi background. He comes from an education seminary where Quran is the basic education. And they are from the stream of officers. Incidentally, there are 2 streams of officers that go into Pakistan military. One is directly through the military academy, and the other is through this so-called non-English speaking, non-regular education, and they train them once they join the army. Now, the present chief of the army staff, the present chief of the ISI are both from the stream where they are from the jihadi stream. Therefore, there is a certain element of terrorism within the hierarchy of Pakistan. These 2 leaders whom we name very frequently in Bhavatpur and Murid's case are yes, indeed so. But what about the military?
Yes.
A large number of people in the military itself are jihadis. Therefore, the situation today in Pakistan is more or less irreparable. I don't think it's easy to remove terrorism from Pakistan in the next many, many years. What we have to do is to contend with it and take actions to prevent India being subjected to terrorist incidents anymore. Therefore, forget about the American interest, forget about the Chinese interest. Chinese interest is tremendous with the China-Pakistan economic corridor and millions of dollars being sunk over there. Therefore, they don't want to lose that. Please understand that terrorism from Pakistan is not going to go away so easily. We should be very prepared to accept terrorist incidents into India any time from now onwards. Operation Sindoor must continue to guard these people and develop our capabilities to defend ourselves and to also create aggressive and offensive possibilities where we can target these people. We have to target some of the individuals. You remember how in Iran they killed General Soleiman. We have to develop that kind of capability. There is recently you got a situation where a Hamas leader was killed in Tehran in the premises of their guest. And that kind of capabilities need to be created in India if we haven't got it. No. Therefore, develop your capabilities. Forget China. Pakistan will never give up terrorism.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. It's not so much that we can hope that Pakistan will mend its ways, or even some of the global players are going to give up their support to Pakistan, whatever excuses they may give. For example, one excuse is that you cannot allow Pakistan to implode to a level where, you know, its nukes or other weaponry could fall into wrong hands. I'm sorry, I've never really bought that. There are always ways to control what happens in Pakistan, given all of the decadal experience that you have in that country, but it is beyond hope. It is being used strategically against India, and of course as a point of pain for India. As for example, Ashok Sajjanhar mentioned Los Angeles, etc., but you know, there is this Khalistani movement in Canada. Why are these movements being allowed to flourish? They don't serve anything as far as the local community is concerned. They're only being allowed to flourish because they allow some sort of a global resonance against India. But Aman, I want to come to you as well. As far as the government is concerned, you know, it sends its MP delegations across the world. It has done, you know, whatever its work was, what it wanted to do against Pakistan. But the global sphere is very tricky for India, because on the surface, nobody will support terrorism. But there is this back and forth with Pakistan, there is this backhanded support to Pakistan that it continues to get, whether it is at bodies like the UN, the World Bank, the ADB, or even its strategic partners.
Well, absolutely. And I think India has been trying to raise that point, you know, through its all-party delegation, like a body like IMF, you know, which has given 2 aids to Pakistan in the last 6 months. Doesn't IMF see the data? The senior government official was telling me earlier today that Pakistan's own economic survey just released yesterday says Pakistan is at its highest debt level of almost 76,000 billion Pakistani rupees. This is the highest ever. It has doubled in the last 4 years. It has gone almost 5 times in the last decade. Look at the Pakistani agriculture figures which have come in the same report. It says, if I quote it from it, that the Pakistani agricultural growth has crashed to just 0.56% from 6.4% a year earlier. Pakistan's poverty figures from the World Bank itself says that nearly 45% of Pakistan is poor. 17% of Pakistan is extremely poor. So from all this aid which is coming from the IMF, is it actually going to serve the poor of Pakistan? Or is this only going into defense budgets, which we are reporting by Pakistani press is reporting, which could get a 20% hike today in the budget Pakistan is presenting? Or is it being diverted toward terrorism activities, sheltering and harboring terrorism? It's certainly not helping. These IMF bailouts are certainly not helping the Pakistan's poor, because the agriculture is crashing and even their poverty figures are rising.
Absolutely. Tarakarta, finally, what do you think is the best way forward for India? How do we maneuver this tricky global sphere?
See, I just wanted to say one thing. I mean, this Nur Khan US base and all, I don't think is correct. What the US prefers, and a lot of countries prefer, is to have the military in place because you can deal with the military. When you ask them to do something, they will do it. So they use Pakistan to the hilt for a number of operations, perhaps also into Iran. So I'll just leave that there. How do we go forward? That's it. You know, the whole thing, if we point out, I mean, what the gentleman just said about the obvious holes which we can see in the budget, which is completely contrary to what the IMF had asked them to do, the conditionalities. I mean, including yesterday, they increased the speaker's allowance, the speaker and I think one more minister by 300%. The legislatures, the MPs, I mean, have been given a 138% increase in salary. Why? Because the IMF said the budget has to go through parliament. Now you increase their salaries, what's left? They've slashed their public sector defense spending. That is the only way that they know. That's what they do consistently. They slash the PSDP funding to take care of the deficit, which means in turn that the services available to Pakistanis are getting worse and worse and worse.
Exactly.
From 1958, they've learned nothing. So I think our outreach has to bring out all these points that, you know, we don't have anything. As the Prime Minister said, we've got nothing against the people of Pakistan. We are willing to work with them. We're willing to work with them on many common issues like climate, garbage, and, you know, the kind of, well, let's face it, the line of governance that most of us get. But the Pakistan military has to be got out of the way. This should be the central message. That democracy must return. Central message in the UN.
Yes.
When we talk of UN reform, it should center around democracy.
Absolutely. You know, Rajnath Singh also said that if Pakistan is unable to deal with the terrorists on its soil, India is very well capable of it and we're willing to help them. if they want that help. So with that message, and also of course the message that is now not lost to anyone in India. One, we have to grow economically. That's the only way to be heard in this world.
True.
And that's the only way to fight our enemies. Secondly, we have to grow defensively. We have to, do further, more as far as our defense capabilities are concerned, which have already absolutely shown in the world during Operation Sindoor, but we still have miles to go. And I think these are the only ways we can deal with these threats around us in the long term. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Moving on, a dream honeymoon in the hills of Meghalaya turned into a chilling nightmare for Raja Raghuvanshi. A land known for its serene hills and cultural harmony is now in the headlines for this brutal crime that has shattered the peace. A murder that has not only claimed a life but has shaken the entire country to its core. A young Indore-based businessman, Raja Raghuvanshi, who got married to Sonam on May 11th, was found dead nearly 20 days after his wedding. According to the Meghalaya police, it was Raja Raghuvanshi's wife, Sonam herself, who orchestrated the murder and allegedly conspired with her boyfriend, Raj Kushwaha. The police claims that the murder was meticulously planned as Raj stayed in touch over phone with three other contract killers, Akash, Vishal and Anand, who executed the crime on a deserted road. A charge Sonam has since denied. She says, Sonam is by the way in police custody, she says that she is a victim herself. Is there no value of life today? Is crime no longer a taboo for the young? We ask this because the crime in this and many other cases that are coming to light recently from cities across India is being carried out by young people, people in the age group of around 20 to 25, educated individuals, upwardly mobile, and for extremely avoidable reasons. These all seem like fiction that we are used to seeing on screen, but they're all becoming a blatant reality. Now take a look at this video, for example, that has now gone viral. Raj Kushwaha, who's one of the main accused from Madhya Pradesh, he's been arrested on charges of plotting to kill Raja Raghuvanshi, was seen at the deceased's funeral. He was known to the family. Raja Raghuvanshi's sister, in one of the videos on a social media handle, claimed that Raj Kushwaha, the accused, was there trying to console the family. Can you imagine the emotional depravity where you allegedly kill someone or hire someone to kill someone and then also show up at their house in the hour of their family's grief? As the Meghalaya murder mystery gets murkier, we break down to you how this plot was hatched and executed. The murder plot spreads to 4 states. Indore is of course where Raja Raghuvanshi, Sonam and Raj Kushwaha hail from. It was on May 11 that Raja and Sonam tied the knot. Shillong is the next place in focus, which is not generally on the list of honeymoon goers, but Raja's family claims that Sonam insisted on going to Shillong. Raja Raghuvanshi's body was then found in a gorge in East Khasi Hills on June 2. At this time, his wife was missing. After the murder, the Meghalaya police claims that Sonam fled to Guwahati with the assailants. Sonam, along with the other 3 contract killers, stayed in Guwahati for a day before leaving to different places. Sonam, accused of orchestrating her husband's murder in a dramatic turn of events, then surrendered at a dhaba in UP. As per the dhaba owner, Sonam reached the eatery around 1 a.m. and asked for help and a phone to contact her family, and it was on her brother's insistence that the dhaba owner informed the police from where she was picked up. So how did the police crack this case? Well, there are frequent contact and sharing of information that was on between Sonam and Raj all during this while, even when Sonam was in Meghalaya. The wedding videos also that have now gone viral indicate that Sonam was seemingly unhappy or certainly not happy during the ritual, sparking a debate if she was really wanting to marry Raja. Raja Raghuvanshi's gold chain, bracelet, wallet were all stolen, but the police says that there was no marks on Sonam and even her valuables were intact, indicating that she was not harmed by the assailants. Testimony from the guide, Albert, who was turned down by the Indore couple, also led police to uncover the Raja Raghuvanshi murder plot. He revealed to the police that he spotted the couple with 3 men. All fingers point to Sonam in this murder case. Cops claim that Sonam is said to have visited home after her marriage and planned her husband's murder with her alleged boyfriend Raj Kushwaha. Raja's family claims that it was Sonam who wanted to go to Meghalaya, as I said, and she booked the tickets. Raja was reportedly hesitant, but she convinced him to. Raja's mother claims that Sonam asked Raja to don a heavy gold chain during their honeymoon. This, cops believe, is to show that he was killed allegedly with an attempt for robbery. Cops claim that call data records show that Sonam was in constant touch with Raj Kushwaha during their visit to Meghalaya, and she shared their live location with Raj, who later shared it with the contract killers. The police further claims that Sonam led Raja to a deserted area where he was then murdered by the contract killers, reportedly hired by Sonam and Raj herself. So this is a honeymoon horror like nothing else, a murky murder tale. The question we ask is, has crime no longer remained a taboo for the young, even those who have a lot to lose?
She did not take this route, and on the other hand, she took Malingkhyat route, which has bad roads, which is not much used by tourists. So how did Sonam gather so much of information about Cherrapunji, Shillong, Cherrapunji, and then entire Meghalaya? That is the question that everyone is having.
सोनम स्कूल में लाके पुलिस को गुमराह कर रही है और कुछ नहीं कर रही है। सोनम इसमें मुख्य आरोपी पूरी सोनम ही है। सोनम का मास्टर प्लान है इसके अंदर। सोनम ने इतनी प्लान तक कर ली थी, तो 13 तारीख के दिन ही राजा को मारना चाह रही थी, बताओ।
और राजा भैया को भी 2 दिन पहले ही पता चला था कि मैं मेघालय जा रहा हूँ।
जगह, समय, टिकट सब तय सोनम ने किया।
हाँ, सारी चीज़ें सोनम ने करी थी।
गलत दावा कर रहे हैं वो लोग, बिल्कुल 100% गलत दावा कर रहे हैं वो लोग, निराधार झूठ बोल रही है, क्योंकि वहाँ की पुलिस फंस रही है उस मामले में, इसलिए वो लोग ये दावा, उल्टा दावा कर रहे हैं।
राज पे बड़े संगीन आरोप लगे हैं।
ये सब झूठ लगा भैया, सब झूठ। कभी मेरा राज ऐसा नहीं कर सकता।
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Sanjay Sahai is former IPS officer, Abha Singh, advocate, joining us. Dr. Neha Agarwal is a psychiatrist at Fortis Hospital, and Avishkar Singhvi is an advocate in the Supreme Court. I do thank you all for joining us. Dr. Neha, I want to begin with you. The biggest mystery in this case is that why would you marry someone if you were so opposed to the idea that you couldn't live with them, that you had to kill them, if the allegations are indeed true? What could be the mental state of someone who agrees to marry someone and within days plans such a brutal murder, conspire with an alleged boyfriend, hire contract killers? These are not normal things.
Yeah, we live in a society where, marriages are often forced. So it's not always the person has a say into this, but yes, clearly this act is obviously not justified if it is true, if the accused is really guilty. But the thing is, there could be many aspects to this. We can see the why behind the acts after it has happened now. There could be psychological disturbances, of course. There could be dysregulation in emotions, and that is why we always encourage talking. We encourage seeking help. Whenever there is a dilemma, whenever there is emotional dysregulation, one should ask for help. One should seek help in form of family, friends, if not a doctor, a psychologist, so that they can guide you through your emotional turmoil and not take such drastic steps.
Yeah, Abha Singh, do you feel like the entire story has come out? Do you feel there are still missing links that we don't understand? Because on the face of it, these don't seem individuals who could have been just forced by families. I could be wrong. And if that is the situation, of course, their families must cop a little bit of the blame. But we live in a world today where men and women both can say no. Right?
Yeah, absolutely true.
Sorry, that question is for Abha Singh, yes. But, instead of saying no, if at all you are forced into a situation, murdering your husband, and then what do you think? You're going to get away with it? No matter how much you plan, what is going to be of your life? So why are young today not caring about the consequences anymore?
Coming from Madhya Pradesh, which is a very traditional state, I'm sure this girl must have been wanting to marry her boyfriend, but her parents would have put pressure. So this marriage must have been forced upon her. And her young mind would have not thought of anything. Maybe her lover told her, doesn't matter, parents are getting you married, we will kill this man and you can come back to me. So, and the amount of these murders you see on social media, then you see how people gruesome, how in what manner they are killed. So I think that there's enough where you can see this is not the first time. We all know the blue drum thing in Meerut, which happened the way they killed the husband, the girl killed the husband with the lover and froze him in cement. So it is a cold-blooded murder thought about properly, because as you rightly said, that the wife booked the tickets, wife had planned it with her lover. The Raj Kushwaha got 3 men, and in Mumbai also, if you see, maximum of the suparis are given to these young boys of 2022 who come, kill and go for a high, for a quick money. So I am not surprised. And also the law and order situation, if you see, conviction rate in murder cases is barely 40 to 50%. So they all know that getting good lawyers and the long way, the amount of years it takes, they will be out in 3-4 years, or they will all. There are chances that they can also go scot-free if the police is not able to put up a foolproof case. So seeing the sad state of judicial affairs in this country, definitely, and the police corruption, crime is on the rise. We are unable to control crime, and this clearly shows that we are unable to prevent crime from happening. Somebody can kill a person in a tourist place and there is no police. Nobody is able to prevent. I am grateful that Meghalaya police has worked out the case. But how this crime could happen in a small state? You buy the dao, you buy the mashit, then you take them somewhere, and then it takes you a week, and that too when all the whole country is, when media makes an issue out of it. So I'm not surprised. This girl, half the children at that age are now getting criminal. The amount of rapes that they're happening, the amount of murders. I had gone to a jail some time back, and when the jailer told me that maximum women in the jail at that time were for 302 murder. And I asked why. They said they are killing their husbands with their lover, and that is the most thing which
the interesting aspect, because Sanjay Sahai, these cases where women are conspiring with their alleged lovers to kill their husbands, some newly married, some even married for years, some even who have children, this is a rising trend.
See, I think we are living in an age where it is a social media generation. And being a social media generation, if something starts there and gets widely reported, and the nature of reporting on social media is very, very vitiated. And at times we find that most gruesome of the murder, I found supporters for most gruesome of the murder, where the accused is a woman, and they talk of some harassment. So they are not in a position to evaluate between the two options which they have. As far as this particular, this lady is concerned, she had an option of getting married or not getting married, and also the option that if she has gotten married, not to get into something of this nature. The worst part which is coming out today, that this generation is just unaware of the law. They are also unaware of the fact as to what will be their future after this sort of a crime is committed.
No, once again, Mr. Sahai, with due respect, how can they be so unaware that they don't know that murder is one of the most heinous crimes in Indian Penal Code? That everybody knows, even a child knows that.
Correct. Even if a child knows, right? If the child knows, and this particular lady also knows, and she knows she will have no future whatsoever if she commits this, then why is it happening? We have seen an instance in Bangalore also where everything is known, but still it happened. My understanding is either they don't understand, or they feel that they are so smart enough
that they can get away with it.
They can get into a meticulous execution of a plan which itself is of a very great level, execute it in a manner, fool the police, fool the judiciary, fool the system, and get away with it. And one thing, that they are using the social media and they are sold out to the social media. They are just unaware of the fact that the social media will come back and hit them on their face and pin them for all times to come. So the technology which they have for fancy, fun, frolic and getting together with paramours or boyfriends and killing husbands or whatever they are doing is exactly the same technology which is pinning them down. They are not aware of the fact that one click is sufficient enough to complete an investigation once and for all, and they will never be able to get out. Witness can change, but the technical evidence will not change. And in this particular case also, Their whole movement is out because of the mobile triangulation of the tower.
Well, in today's day and age, I don't know if crime shows is having an impact where young people today feel that, you know, they can also plot some unsolvable murder. But in today's day and age, the first thing that any young person who is technologically advanced and, you know, technologically savvy would know that there is a digital footprint for everything. Avishkar, what do you think is happening here? Because it seems a bit of a leap that instead of fighting your family, no matter how hard it may be, you instead choose the much worse path of killing your new husband.
Thank you for having me on your show. Well, I certainly think it's not one of those, it's not a case of ignorance of the law. It's certainly a case where they thought they could get away. And the elaborate plan which was hatched by Sonam along with the contract killers is prima facie. At this stage, it seems that it is clear beyond reasonable doubt almost that she was behind it. And whatever may be the reason, whether it was a paramour instigating her, whether the accountant they had planned it before, but at each step of the way, like the learned IPS officer has said, that each step of the way they had left a digital footprint behind, and that is what will eventually spell doom for her in the trial. But you know, you have to understand, take a step back and understand why our criminal justice system is helpless in these situations, because it's not a matter of there's no way to police these situations. Someone goes
and
on
these
a
are not
honeymoon.
and these are
Someone
not
goes on a
individuals who are so deprived that they're doing something out of economic conditions or something like that.
Yes.
These are purely crimes of passion.
Crimes of passion, and possibly crimes which were forced because of the fact that she was forced to marry someone she did not. There could be several explanations, but you cannot police a particular couple going on a honeymoon.
Yes, absolutely.
Where it's impossible to police. Point number one. Point number two here is that, you know, of course she will be charged with under the BNSS section 101, 65, etc. But there should also be a charge on the other accomplices, and that is according to me in the long drawn trial that will play out. I think some of the accomplices may get away because of lack of evidence, and that is my real worry. We should wait till the charge sheet comes out. I think it's too early in the day to say the investigation is going on, and I think once all these things play out, but the police is, I think, done a good job so far. But I think they must make sure that in the charge sheet they put down each and every little detail.
Absolutely.
To pin down the accomplices as well. Because
Dr.
I think
Neha, the influence of social media is being referred to a lot. We feel that the young mind is degenerating. I'm using a strong word, but I'm using this with great responsibility, that the young mind today is degenerating into doing all kinds of absolutely frivolous things, but dangerous things because of the influence of social media. Can you, for the benefit of our viewers, elaborate what are the impacts of social media? And for example, in this case, what is the problem of social media that may have impacted Sonam and others?
See, social media is today a performance act, not the reality. And people get lured by this illusion that how the happy marriages should be, the idea of love which is projected on the social media, and they want that lovey-dovey things, everything will be there, the dreams will come true, and everything will fall in place. They don't take a no for an answer. They can't stand or regulate their emotions when there is a no, when the wishes are not being fulfilled, and then they resort to such things because they are not able to regulate failures in life. And what to do when you face such a thing? Like, do you fight with your parents? Do you take a stand for yourself? Or do you just passively just plan something so elaborate and so criminal in your minds instead of taking the right course? So social media gives you the illusion and it places you into a dreamy world, one. Secondly, it also does not focus much on, like Sir said, ki people are not knowing the law. They know the law, but they think they are more intelligent than that, because crime series are on a on a rise on all the OTT platforms.
Yes.
So this is whatever you see, it gets into your brain, right? And your mind thinks like that. So if you consume more of such criminal content.
May I ask, Abha Singh, do you think in a way crime has been normalized so much? Even regular, ordinary people committing murders, planning murders, do you think crime has become so normalized in our fiction watching life, that those lines have blurred. I mean, who hires a contract killer? You have to be really at the end of your wits to do something like that. Who even knows a contract killer in normal life?
You know, not normalized, I would say one step further, it has been glamorized. Now you're talking of Lawrence Bishnoi, his juniors, Dawood Ibrahim, their glamorous lifestyle. So somewhere people are thinking, oh, this is a shortcut to glamour, money, stature, so they don't mind picking up the gun. That is one thing. Second is the defunct system in this country that you can commit murder and run away from there for 10 days, you are not to be found. This is not one case, many cases, so many cases go undetected.
Yeah.
You are unable to find people cross borders. If she had crossed into Nepal, you would have never arrested her. So these are the things, which we need to check, and I would say it's a law and order thing. 3 people getting a supari to murder this boy in Meghalaya. I mean, see the planning. And then sharing the location, that is another dangerous thing. That your mobiles can give away your location. And that is how they could track where this couple was.
But we can't fight that. That's technology. That's the world we live in. That's going to be no. I mean, in future, everybody's location is going to be known at all times. That doesn't mean that you commit a murder.
School kidnappings are taking place because children pictures are put up that they are here, they are there. So what I'm trying to say, that the police really need to tighten up their working culture. They need to have CCTV cameras everywhere, and that is how they worked hard and they acted in collaboration. 4 states, they could work out. The only solution is fear of the law, that people should know that if you commit a crime, you will not escape.
Well, fear of the law is certainly what needs to be reinforced. But there is this rising trend of young people taking to a life of crime which seems bizarre, and a lot of them are even getting embroiled, for example, in espionage cases. A lot of cases involving YouTubers, influencers, so-called influencers, people with large followings, where it seems morals go out of the window, or even the sense of right and wrong goes out of the window for either a quick buck or quick gratification. I think that's the most dangerous path that we're on. I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. On that note, time for me to take your leave. The Right Stand is coming up after a short break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Do remember, the stakes are back to Operation Sindoor and the kind of damage India inflicted on Pakistan's military infrastructure. News coming in, we're learning Pakistan's Nur Khan Air Base, which is considered a critical node in its military infrastructure, sustained significant damage in India's precision strikes during Operation Sindoor, and there's more proof of the same that we've managed to extract. Intelligence sources confirm that Indian strikes targeted key infrastructure, including runways, radar stations, hangars, and underground fortified zones. Satellite imagery reveals the destruction of a 7,000 square feet operation complex and command vehicles, as well as crater impacts near areas believed to store sensitive or nuclear-linked assets. Pakistan Army has attempted to downplay the damage, but intelligence agencies backed by high-resolution satellite imagery confirms that around 20% of Pakistan's Air Force operational infrastructure may have been degraded in the strike. In a big revelation, Pakistani security analyst Imtiaz Gul also alleged that the airbase functions effectively as an American fortress, off limits even to Pakistan Army personnel. He cited repeated sightings of US aircraft, undisclosed cargo, and restricted access to Pakistan Army officers. Going across to Akanksha Swaroop for a quick update. Akanksha, now military bases like the Nur Khan base have suffered significant damage, and the Indian Armed Forces in fact have been putting out significant proof of the same, but this one is also big in itself. Pakistani security analyst Imtiaz Gul alleging that the airbase functions effectively as an American fortress. What do you make of this big remark that's come in from the analyst.
Right, Krithween, it's also important to talk about the source. Imtiaz Gul is a renowned security analyst based in Pakistan, and he's been reporting on security and defense for quite a while. So when he is saying this has also been, Nur Khan has been a fortress for American defense and that they have access to Nur Khan since 2001, that's big news coming in and straight from the horse's mouth. Gul's statement, of course, has exposed long-standing rumors of US operational access, which he has stated goes back all the way to 2001 for Afghan war logistics and drone operations. Perhaps that's one reason also now, if you were to piece together the US President Donald Trump's own silence when it comes to condemning terror being harbored by Pakistan so actively, and that has been a sharp contrast to Trump's previous presidency, where he was absolutely not supportive of the then Prime Minister Imran Khan. When they had met, he had categorically told him to destroy these terror networks, but the silence this time around of the US President has been deafening, Krithween. So important to also highlight the information that we are sharing right now. This is, of course, a CNN mega exclusive. These Pakistan air bases that have borne the kind of damages coming straight from Pakistani security analysts. Remember, Pakistan was trying to downplay it at a time when our multi-party delegations have returned after sharing all the information about Operation Sindoor. This is the kind of information that now talks about how the damage has already degraded 20% of Pakistan's air force infrastructure. Remember, this is coming on a day when Pakistan's budget will be allocated, especially when it comes to defense spending. We can also expect now Pakistan to take this entire conflict in view and increase their budget spending. But Pakistan's army is, of course, trying to downplay the damage that was brought to their air bases in the interim night of 9th and 10th of May. What I can tell you is that the base's proximity to nuclear facilities has heightened security sensitivities, potentially delaying external access for clearance. The satellite imagery, as we had already talked about during Operation Sindoor, had gone on to indicate how close to 7,000 square feet of land near the strike sites had been damaged. Indian attacks have severely hit Saab area. AWACS, this is a strategic location 25 kilometers from Islamabad. It's also adjacent to the Pakistani army headquarters and also the nuclear command center. So this, of course, entire damage is also symbolic. It's not just hit the morale of the Pakistani Air Force bases, but the entire Pakistan army. It symbolizes a direct breach of Pakistan's core defense systems. The base has also Turkish Bayraktar TB2 drones and has served as the nerve center for the Air Mobility Command increased operational bases. Now with, we are also looking at the kind of debris management that is all on. There are heaps of rubbles, as has already been confirmed by various Pakistani senators who are going and doling out interviews to international news publications and various channels. They've gone on to talk about how various air bases have been reduced to a state of rubble. There's debris, and Pakistan's military initially, of course, as we have been talking about, has downplayed it. But the satellite evidence is something they cannot deny, and Indian strikes have also exposed these critical gaps in Pakistan's air defense, which shows its inability to intercept ballistic missiles that have targeted these high value sites that have gone all deep inside. But most importantly, the fact that Nur Khan was being used by the United States as a base since 2001, goes on to talk about how perhaps this was a Frankenstein which was created by the West, primarily the United States, as Khwaja Asif also maintained that Pakistan was doing the West's dirty job for over 30 years, and this in itself is validation of what he said.
Oh yes, so we will touch upon the American aspect that clearly comes to the fore once again with these exclusive inputs and the big revelation coming in from insiders in Pakistan. Akanksha, many thanks for that. Going across to Major Manik Jolly, strategic affairs expert, who joins us on the broadcast this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Major Jolly. How do you look at this? Before we get into the American fortress claim that's come in, it's turned out to be a huge controversy once again. I want a sense from you, Major Jolly, on the significant damage that several Air Force operational infrastructures have seen in Pakistan. About 20%.
A very good evening. You're watching The Right Stand. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Now, another Pakistan leader has been embarrassed and snubbed by global media. This on the issue of Pak-supported terrorism. In an interview with Sky News journalist Yalda Hakim, Pakistan People's Party Senator Sherry Rehman appeared to indirectly acknowledge Pakistan's troubled past with terror groups, including long-standing concerns about state links to organizations operating within its borders. The interview, which touched on Pakistan's recent removal from the FATF grey list, took a sharp turn when the conversation